everyone, welcome back to Cheddar. Joining us now are Petra Nemcova. She's the founder of Happy Hearts Fund, and David Campbell. He's the founder of All Hands Volunteers. Now, both of you just announced that you're the merger of the organizations All Hands and Hearts, which is Smart Response, an organization expanding disaster relief efforts. Petra, how will you be able to better help those affected by natural disasters through this new organization?
What I have learned over the last 12 years working after natural disasters, that children and communities are waiting 4 years, 6 years for schools and homes, and to me it was unacceptable. And knowing after working with All Hands Volunteers the last couple of years in Nepal and Peru, that we can have much faster impact and smarter impact through rebuilding in disaster resilient way, we knew that by coming together in a stronger way, by merging together, we can implement this and scale it so children and families don't have to wait for such a long time. We want to create smarter response through being there immediately but staying for the long run. And we've showed this already in Houston after Hurricane Harvey, and in St. Thomas after Hurricane Irma and Maria, and our goal is to do it the same thing after every natural disaster, so children and families, they know that they can count on us.
Well, I know, David, you just got back from Peru, well, along with Petra, but you just came back. Do you think at some point, like, people, they kind of put it out of their minds, these natural disasters happen, and then essentially when the big media outlets stop covering it, they think that, you know, this area, I guess, maybe that, not that it's been fixed, but that, you know, they have all the help, the aid that they need, so they kind of just forget.
Well, there's a cycle with all disasters where people pay much attention in the first 30 days, the attention goes, but the needs last for 7 years. So we created our organizations basically to understand that there are great needs in these areas. All Hands particularly was set up to be a platform to allow individuals, volunteers, to show up after natural disasters and really be productive and effective. And doing that work in Nepal, building schools in partnership with Petra, really led both of us to realize we could be more effective together. And so, you know, building together is really part of the message of taking the maximum advantage. As Petra said, we show up early and we stay late, and we think that can make a real difference in how disaster recovery is done.
Now, Petra, you mentioned that sometimes it can take up to 4 years for some of the recovery to be fully, re-implemented, especially these schools. How will Smart Response help reduce that time, and what's your goal? Is it a month? Is it a year?
So we have seen already that by working together, we can, for example, in Nepal, after the earthquake of 2015, we got together in a quite difficult country, but there's a lot of bureaucracy, and the earthquake was really traumatic. Most of the communities were destroyed, 90% of them. And we've been able to, together with All Hands Volunteers, build the first school, disaster resilient school, not just a regular school, but disaster resilient school in a year and a half. Now, then we start building more schools in Nepal. In the same time, went to Peru and rebuilt the first school, disaster resilient school, in 7 months after a flooding, and the actual construction was only 3 months. We were the first ones in the whole region to build a school. Other schools didn't start even being built. So we know we know the gap is not going to disappear, but from 4 or 6 years, it may be 1 year or a year and a half. So our goal is to narrow this gap so children can go back to school, a safe school. They can continue learning. If you have children without education for 4 or 6 years, you lose the whole generation. And the same with homes, getting families back to homes so they can start going back to a sense of normalcy. So we know we can narrow this gap, and together with others, we can do it faster, and hopefully others will join us. And we need volunteers, actually. Yeah. We need wonderful, dedicated volunteers to come and help us, because that's the power. The volunteers are our engine.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. You talk about closing the gap, narrowing that. What role does technology play in being able to help you do that?
Well, one of the first things that happens is volunteers find us often using the internet. So when we announced the project in Nepal, for example, we had 10,000 people from 100 different countries apply to become part of our workforce. So we have over 100 trained staff, disaster experts. We can have 500 volunteers working with them to multiply their impact. So whether it's 3,500 people that came, applied to volunteer in Houston, where we'll be for 2 years, helping recover homes, or in Peru or Nepal, that desire of people to help is something that we enable, we make it happen. And so it's productive for the communities, and it's also great for the communities to see people from the outside who care come in and do their work, apply their skills to benefit those communities. And frankly, it's something that people need these days. They need a way to be connected and be impactful and really know they can make a difference in the world.
Petra, I want to go back to your own personal experience back in 2004 when you unfortunately lost your fiance, and you also had to suffer through going through the tsunami in the Indian Ocean there. Facebook a couple of years later launched a safety check feature which would actually alert friends and family of whether or not their friends and family were actually safe. Do you think that if that feature were available at that time when you were going through your tragedy, it would have helped the situation?
100%. Technology can really help on many different levels, from finding your family, but also disaster early warning systems. At that time, there were no early warning systems, so it's very important to have those in place, and for every country, every government, to make sure that they have a proper warning systems in terms of not just tsunamis, but earthquakes and hurricanes, and for the communities knowing how to recognize early warning signs and what to do. And unfortunately, we live in a times when natural disasters can happen anytime and anywhere. The natural disasters have doubled since 80s. So it's one of the best ways you can protect yourself is by knowledge, by education, knowing what to do when they happen. And of course, government plays a very important role on implementing these new technologies, which were not there in 2004.
And are you working with the Googles of the world, the Facebooks of the world, in helping Puerto Rico, for example, with getting them back online? I mean, you know, Project Loon is already trying to get internet back in Puerto Rico.
We are in St. Thomas at the moment. Puerto Rico is in a very bad place, but is getting at least some news. Have you heard any news about St. Thomas?
No.
Not since the hurricane.
Yeah, exactly.
So we always, both organizations, before merger, we always went to the areas which were the most forgotten, which nobody talked about, where there was no press. So we, right after Hurricane Irma, we actually, all hands volunteers and Happy Hearts, we went to St. Thomas. Then our team had to evacuate 2 days later because of Hurricane Maria coming, and then we've been there ever since. And the situation is desperate because a lot actually of the resources coming on the ships have to go through Puerto Rico. Now imagine the bottleneck which is happening for the islands like St. Thomas. Yeah. But we are committed to stay there. We've been already doing a lot of work on houses and schools. We made commitment to stay there for 2 years, and that's very important. That's part of the smart response, not just first response, but smart long-term response.
David.
Well, we also will be sending an assessment team to Puerto Rico next month, so that will help determine what we'll be able to do over the next year plus in Puerto Rico.
I was going to say, for people that do want to get involved, that are watching you all right now, how can they get involved?
But going to the website, allhandsandhearts.org, is a leading point. We still both have our individual organizational websites, but they can get to that through that All Hands and Hearts. And we encourage people who think they can help and want to help to come and learn more about us, apply, and then we'll schedule them in when it's appropriate. And part of our message is we want the volunteers to be productive. So we organize ourselves and have the tools and equipment and transportation, so anybody, you could come and help. Anybody can come on the scene and help us build schools, clean homes. We get people back in their homes so they're safer again. And we really could use volunteers in addition to donors, but we really would appreciate people's interest because we want to connect people to those communities in need and help address their problems.
And will you help us get there if we want to volunteer?
Yeah, we'll help you get there.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Please come and see.
All right.
You can stay for 3 days or 3 weeks or 3 months.
Okay, let's sign up for that. I want to look into it.
I would definitely love to help out.
Exactly.
I'm from Houston, so a lot of people I know are impacted, not my immediate family, but yes, that region, along with many other regions throughout the world, need a lot of help, and it's great work that you guys are doing.
And we made the same commitment in Houston to stay for 2 years minimum. So come and meet our team and volunteer. It will be great.
All right, thank you guys both.
Petra, before we let you go, real quick, of course you are a supermodel, so we do want to ask you a very quick beauty-related question. What is your top tip for staying beautiful?
Oh my God. I think that the most important thing, if you are happy, then you radiate. I mean, that's number one. If you have that happiness within, then you're glowing and radiating, and better than any mask. I would say then hydrating, just that alone, water is essential. But The quick tip. Okay, one of them.
Yeah.
Manuka honey. Manuka honey.
What is
So we know about Manuka honey is from New Zealand. It's
Okay.
extremely potent, and it's very good for your immune system. It strengthens your immune system. It's also anti-inflammatory and so on and so on. It has lots of benefits. Now, most people, they eat it to boost their immune system so that they don't get sick. Now, it's great also for your skin. So if you in the morning as a cleanser, so if you make your face a little bit damp with the water, and then you put the Manuka honey and cleanse your skin slowly, and then you wash it out, your skin is not going to be just cleansed, but it's going to be nice and plump, and it's amazing, all natural, and very effective.
All of the
Yoga
ladies
honey.
watching right now are thanking you. This
I'm
is
gonna
going to sell out on
right now.
Amazon.
They have them in Whole Foods, like little sachets, or or anywhere like a big jars. It's a little bit expensive. It's not like a regular honey, but it's so worth it. You can use it for inside and outside.
I'm done. Let's go.
I've
Whole
already
Foods
looked it up
now.
right here on my
That's
computer.
right, that's
I have
right.
pulled it up, people. I'll be putting in my order as soon as we got a break. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Petra Nemcova, founder of Happy Hearts, and David Campbell, founder of All Hands Volunteers.
And now all hands and hearts.
Hearts.
All hands and
.org.
hearts.
Hearts. That's right.